Welcome back, brothers and sisters. Braden, Tim, Second Legacy, and thank you for showing up. Today, we have got to talk about some of the fallout from the Rahimi case because, guys, nothing happens in a vacuum. And what we're about to show you is a myriad of clips that happened over the weekend around the Rahimi case from the SCOTUS. You cannot watch these clips and tell me that they do not have a predetermined destination from multiple places like MSNBC and ABC. Everything that we have for you is brought by the sweat of our brow. So if you're enjoying the content, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn the notification bell on. And with that, Tim, are you fully ready to deploy the two-way sarcasm and humor to get us through?
I think so.
You are. I believe in you.
These people wear me thin, man.
I know, but it's something that we've got to do for the beautiful people of Second Legacy, because if we did not, we would be doing them a disservice. I mean, we really would be. It'd be terrible. So what do you want to hit, Tim? You want to dive into ABC or you want to dive into MSNBC? Like what's your fancy this morning?
MSDNC sounds good. They're always good for a laugh or two.
All right. Well, this clip, this is the first clip that sets up where they're going. Again, remember, Rahimi case had nothing to do with red flag laws at all. However, it's very interesting the things we're about to show you. This is number 9, Doctor.
Point out that this is an 8-1 decision. We talk a lot about the fact that this is a 6-3 conservative majority court, but here you're seeing a decision that's written by Chief Justice Roberts, and and the liberals and conservatives, other than Justice Clarence Thomas, are all finding that they agree on this issue. So it is, I think, striking to see sort of this split, a split that we don't often see, which is an 8-1 split. I think it's important to note that.
8-1 split, Tim. It's interesting. You know what I don't hear them say a lot is when Biden consistently gets smoked by 9-0 decisions. We don't see it a lot. 8-1.
Yeah,
it's really crazy. Really those are conservative.
But they've been after Clarence Thomas forever. I mean, there's an active campaign right now on social media to get rid of him. They desperately want to see.
And Alito.
There doesn't seem to be any momentum in terms of stacking the court, which they've been calling for since Biden took office. Mm-hmm. And so now they're just trying to get justices kicked off. So force the retirement or force something.
Make some room, right?
So Biden can appoint somebody. But
no, they wouldn't do that, Tim.
Yeah.
They would. Is it because it's out of balance? Is that it?
Well, Clarence Thomas is a horrible racist. You didn't know that? And he's an insurrectionist and a racist. What else have they accused him of? Just about everything.
Everything under the sun.
Yeah. He started both world wars. He's just a bad man.
Did he really?
You know,
he was there with Archduke Ferdinand. He's the guy in Hungary.
Little did you know he was driving the car, and it wasn't the other guy. Mr. Thomas turned around and did the deed from the front seat. It's just unbelievable. There's no video of it, but that's what they're saying on Slate magazine.
You hate to see that, man.
Yeah.
God, yeah, that's terrible.
Anyway,
well, I mean, thank goodness though, Tim, because the unbiased reporting. We don't usually see this. 8-1 doesn't ever happen. Even conservatives are against gun rights, except when there's 9-0 decisions against Biden all the time. No big deal. Whatever, but. Let's jump over to ABC. Maybe there's a different tune being sung on ABC. Remember, again, red flag laws was never mentioned in this case. All right, let's hit number 10.
With the opinion of the court, Chief Justice John Roberts writing, an individual found by a court to pose a credible threat to the physical safety of another may be temporarily disarmed consistent with the Second Amendment. Justice Clarence Thomas alone dissenting, writing, today's decision puts at risk the Second Amendment rights of many more.
This statute actually ends up disarming a bunch of law-abiding or otherwise good people that you might not expect when you first look at it.
The executive director of the NRA's lobbying division says the Supreme Court's narrow opinion offers no endorsement of red flag laws or of the dozens of other unconstitutional laws that the NRA is challenging across the country.
What? Weird how they pick. Isn't that weird? They went with the NRA, which is someone who's like, I thought they were dead, by the way. I thought they didn't exist.
Well, the anti-gunners still blame the NRA for everything, even though everybody else is doing all the heavy lifting. But yeah, go ahead. Direct your fire over there because they ain't doing anything.
The bully pulpit. Yeah, it's just the bully pulpit. But yeah, I do find it fascinating that this, a couple things. So ABC did not pick up on FPC's statement, NAGR's statement, GOA's statement. No, they went to NRA. And the one that they picked out was the only gun rights group that said a word about red flag laws.
Right. And what are they talking about?
Yeah. Isn't that weird? And then when you tie that in with the very first part of that clip that said an individual found by a court to pose a credible threat to the physical safety of another may be temporarily disarmed consistent with the Second Amendment. Now, they cherry-picked John Roberts' words, shocker of all shocks, and I'm going to put a counter to that in a second. But isn't it weird, Tim, in that one segment, they hit John Roberts' words that almost describe red flag laws, even though they aren't talking about them. And then they hit Clarence Thomas about being a baddie.
Mm-hmm.
And then on the other side, we brought in an NRA statement that had about red flag laws weren't mentioned. That's weird how all of those breadcrumbs kind of lead forward. And they also happen to omit, I'm not sure if you read the whole decision, but they happen to omit how Justice John Roberts and all the concurring conservative justices all said due process was a requirement. Isn't that weird how they didn't put that in there?
Well, yeah. I mean, because
that's odd.
Yeah, they don't like the whole due process thing. They just like the take your gun thing. So, yeah.
Well, yeah, but you'd think though, if you were an impartial news service, that you would not tease red flag laws, do a hit piece on Clarence Thomas, and then actually say red flag laws from the NRA. But then you left out the due process part that those same justices said. I'll tell you what, it is weird. The selective nature. Maybe it was just overlooking. Maybe I had a short segment. They had to jam it all in. Maybe it wasn't. It was on the cutting room floor. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, it's not like they ever do anything nefarious or try to talk in circles to confuse people or to claim victory for things that there's no victory to be had. But let's go ahead and let's see what else they have to say.
Well, we're gonna jump back to MSDNC, as you coined. This is the last part of that first clip that we saw the setup for. Right, this is number 11.
A striking decision, given the fact that with this conservative majority court, you had some, especially gun rights activists, who were saying, well, maybe this court will be a court that's going to be more sympathetic to Rahimi's claims here, and that they're going to go against him and go with him, rather, and say that he should have access to his guns. I also want to just point out that during oral arguments, there's a lot of questions about history and traditions, whether or not, because in the past and historically, you haven't had laws, I guess, dating back to the beginning of this country, where people were not having access to their guns because of violating domestic violence laws. And this is a court that's in some ways really been seen as wanting to go to the original sort of definitions of the Constitution. But here's a Supreme Court saying, well, you know what, there are times where people need to temporarily lose access to their firearms. So I think it is striking if you think about the context of this and the history of this.
That's weird. Those are the exact verbiage phrases that the gun controllers use.
Yeah, it is. Like,
isn't that weird?
Verbatim. Yeah.
Huh.
History and tradition. That really is a problem for them, isn't it? They don't like that.
Yeah, but she also forgot the text part. That's weird. It's odd how they forget the text part every single time. You'd think it's right up in the front because it's pretty easy. It's like text. So you start it and you read it left to right, top to bottom, form letters together to make words to sentences.
Yeah.
It's weird how they forgot the text part. And then also MSNBC, and all of this is within about an hour to an hour and a half after the decision, also brought up the word temporary and if it's posing a threat. Isn't that weird? But also she left out due process too. That's so weird.
But see, because if you talk about due process, then red flag laws, which they're not talking about in this case, obviously, but red flag laws fall apart because that's like jumbo shrimp. It's an oxymoron. You can't have red flag laws and due process.
No, it doesn't work.
Because due process is something that's very clearly defined in the Constitution. So, and red flag laws circumvent every single tenet of due process. Mm-hmm. They basically, like Trump said, take the guns now, due process later, because that's the only way that recipe works, because you don't have due process, then take the guns. If you do that, well, we already have that mechanism in place because that's called going to court.
Correct. That's the whole point. Watching them try to thread this needle is very interesting because they don't want to say that it was a good decision, but they don't want to say it was a bad decision, but they didn't destroy Bruin, but they also didn't really help Bruin. It's really interesting how they took on this.
You're leaving out a key component. We just had this conversation about Slate Magazine. It's a racist decision.
Oh, I forgot. Thanks.
Good grief. Now, I'm surprised she didn't bring it up because that is a massive oversight on their part. But thankfully, Slate was there to catch that falling ball. And now we know from a previous video that we've done, it was all about racism. It's all about putting minorities in prison. That's all it's about.
I'm so glad you're here to ground me.
Yep.
Man, without your unwavering light, I'd be adrift in a sea of gun control.
Well, that's because you're just full of privilege. Oodles and oodles of it.
Oh, my God. Not the buckets.
Yep. You got the buckets of privilege over there, and that skews your view of things. I understand that, you bigot. So, yeah.
You had some passion on that one. God, that was really there's a lot of feeling behind that. Okay, well, glad we're on that page. I feel like I need to say 8 Hail Marys now.
You got anything in your defense there? Come on.
No. Turns out that we are. That was all I had for you.
All right. Well, fine.
The crazy.
Well, you know, we'll keep watching their heads spin over this decision, because even when they get what they want, they're still not happy. Thanks for watching.
Yeah,
we'll talk
weird.
to you guys soon.